Hey guys. Okay, so now that we got the intro to the era of 305 out of the way, I've all the good shit and funny stories and tough things were all fresh on my mind. So I figured I'd do a second video in one day. Although I don't know when I'll be releasing this one, if I'll do them both at once or what have you. But this is yeah, just the continuing of the story to what of Echo 305 and what I anticipate will be a three-part mini-series available on my YouTube channel only. I guess nobody else wants to pay to subscribe to this. But there weren't just serious moments or tough moments. There were also some pretty fucking funny moments, some good stories. And one of them that I can recall was when we were going I want to say southbound on Arlington. Um, or no, wait, we were going northbound on Arlington. And southbound towards us was a Chrysler Sebring. Uh, that back in the day, along with the Dodge Neons, I think were some of the most popular stolen vehicles. Um, Likely because their columns were easily smashed and a screwdriver or whatever would be used to start them, and off they go. So we spent so much time running plates. Here was another car that just, for many reasons, looked good to us. We ran the plate, and sure enough, as we're going north, and it is coming south or going south. We crossed paths, ran the plate, and by the time we got the return back on our MDT, it came back as stolen. So we flipped around, and my partner was driving at the time, and he and I, well, we operate vehicles, cruiser cars, and our own private vehicles quite differently. And one could say that he does tend to drive like a bit of an asshole. He'll play it off as skill, um, um, and admittedly, he and I never got into a car wreck before. Not that we didn't come to see here, close to the odd one or two. But he fancied himself an F1 driver or what have you. And so off we were, tearing around, pulling a Yui, and to get into pursuit of that stolen vehicle. And of course, if you're an asshole in a stolen whip, and which is what kids are calling stolen cars these days, um, and you see a cruiser car turn around, you fucking know what's coming. So by the time we get in behind of this thing, it is flying off the Arlington Street Bridge. And if you don't know what that looks like, if you're a Winnipegger, Google it for some pictures. I think it's the steepest bridge in Winnipeg. Has quite the drop off in both directions. And that fucking Sebring, as we activated our overheads, our federal system, overheads and lights, um, it flew off the end of the bridge southbound. The next major street's Logan Avenue. It sailed. You could almost hear it. Picture this was 2007. Flew off the bridge. I don't think that I would have hit the gas as hard as my partner. He either told me to hold on or I just knew to grab onto the oh shit bar. And I fucking did. You know when you go to the X and you go to one of those rides where your stomach starts lifting up and you feel sick and you're screaming, I'm gonna fucking die, and you're bracing yourself, which is the worst thing to do in every which way possible in the passenger seat. You look over at your partner and he has got the biggest fucking shit eating grin on his face. He's like a hog at the trough. I'm not saying that he's fat and enjoyed eating. He did. He wasn't really fat, he was just a large man. But anyways, he has an ear-to-ear fucking grin as we gain several seconds of airtime. I'm fucking bracing for impact. I don't know where we landed. I don't know if we made it off the bridge to Logan or just a tippy toe of the bridge. But we fucking sailed for a few seconds ourselves. And we landed with a bang. And I shit you not, sparks shot up each side of the car to the window level. And I'm looking at him. He's still fucking smiling. But we kept going. And we kept going straight. And he was he was passing several streets, getting close to Notre Dame Avenue, a very busy intersection with multiple traffic lights, multiple telephone poles, and all the wires that go back and forth. Well, this fucking guy lost control. Down goes a hydro pole with wires on the ground. Sparks fucking arcing all over the place. There wasn't a lot of traffic at that time of night. And I'm thankful things weren't worse. But he didn't hit anybody. And he kept going. And he crashed into a fucking bus shack. One of the ones with like metal frame, glass, metal roof. And he fucking flips over and the bus shack is just destroyed. It's one of those oh fuck moments. The wires arcing and dancing around all over the place. I'm voicing everything. I'm not hiding anything. I'm advising dispatch and everybody else that's listening as to what's going on, as I'd been calling the pursuit the whole time. Properly and skillfully, I might add. And you just figured, he's fucking dead. And that's all there is to it. Cars flipped over, bus shack destroyed. And as we get close, I notice on the metal bench that was inside the bus shack is this little old lady, clutching her bag. And she was right in front of a housing apartment block, which I think at the time, or maybe still is, a German society or old folks home. There's a few of them in the north end, a Polish one, Ukrainian one. This was a German one, I believe on the southwest corner of Arlington at Notre Dame. Anyway, she was sitting in the fucking bus shack the whole time. Untouched. And we pull up in behind of the car, and most people would figure, bad guy's not wearing his seatbelt, he's fucking dead. As we get close, there he is, climbing out of the rear window while the car is kind of like in a panini press position. And he's crawling out of the fucking car. Barely hurt, scratched and bleeding a bit, I think. And he gets up and runs away, starts to run away. And people just, until you're in one of those things and see it for yourself, you wouldn't believe what people, whether they're high or drunk or sober and scared, can do. He didn't get very far. It's quite possible, though I can't recall, Your Honor, whether it was my partner who caught him first or I did. My partner was just slightly faster than I am. I think it has to do with, the law of gravity. The heavier objects fall faster. But for a guy with a giant noggin and a fat ass who's naturally farm boy big, let's say, he moves pretty quick. And he may or may not have been the one to catch that guy, who, of course, had drugs and cash on him and yada, yada, yada. I was tired. So anyways, it worked out well, except that as we often did as Echo 305, we caused shit fests and or clusterfucks, as they're called in police lingo. And, I had to call for supervisors and other units to guard the intersection or block the scene, and a fair bit of damage. Rascals. We were productive, mischievous rascals. Um, but we produced. We, uh, we were known for getting results. So that was one occasion. One occasion that we went off the Arlington Street Bridge. Another time that we went flying off the bridge was in the summer of the first year that we worked together, and I forget the month or day, it was either June or July. We heard of a pursuit in another district of a vehicle that had been involved in a commercial robbery where the suspect was believed to be armed. And this was a hot pursuit, which was going on for a few minutes. And we're coming from a million miles away out of district. But as we often did, we volunteered to assist. And we did. And my race car driving partner got us fairly close to the pursuit because you're hearing where they're going, the directions they're given. You're trying to catch up. You're paralleling them, that kind of stuff, and keeping track of where they're going and also where you are. And we're trying to get close. And eventually we got into the River Heights area, and we hear that the vehicle's been involved in a collision, and that, as is often the case, a traffic pursuit gets into a foot pursuit. So we're in the neighborhood of that, and as we usually did, because we're good cops, we roll our windows down a bit so that we can hear the outside noises. And we were close, within a couple blocks, I think. And the next thing that we hear voiced is shots fired, suspect down. We look at each other with that what the fuck kind of look, and because neither one of us heard the shot. But real gunshots aren't like they are in movies. You don't hear them from miles around, and it doesn't sound like thunder up close or anything like that. The pop of a service pistol, 40 calibers that we use, are, I don't feel they're very loud. I'm used to it, doing my qualifying shooting every year and some elective shooting courses too. But it wasn't that loud. So eventually we get around to where the suspect is in custody, and there's a couple of officers present. And it was one of those situations where, and respecting everybody's privacy, and even though it's more than a decade later, and that was a very serious event, but some things, everybody has different observations of what occurred, and they recount the event differently to the best of each individual person's memory. And one cop can't account for or testify in court what another cop did or saw, and quite often those accounts of the same event can be different, especially when it comes to a critical incident where lethal force is used. But regardless, so my partner and I had some involvement at the scene, and I would say mine was at the scene where the bad guy was in custody, mine was of a more serious nature. And then, when a supervisor showed up, I told him immediately what I did so that he was well informed. And then he gave us direction to secure a portion of the front scene, tape it up, the caution tape that you always see everywhere, and then to search the back lane. And we did. And my partner found some key pieces of evidence, and things didn't really line up with what we knew so far. So we knew then that this was going to be a serious fucking thing. The suspect was okay. He never went critical. He was injured in an area where he didn't suffer as much injury as, say, hitting an organ or an artery. He was sitting in an area where his injuries were pretty minimal for a gunshot wound. Not to discount the seriousness of it, but it's not an event where someone needs emergency medical, resuscitation or is going critical to hospital. So anyway, um, and then we finish guarding the rear part of the scene until our relief showed up. In that event, I think we were on evenings and we got relieved by night shift, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and then we headed back to do our documentation. And it was one of those serious events where I knew, this was going to go to court. I knew that there could well be an inquiry. I knew that there would be a professional standards or IA, internal affairs investigation. And I knew that what I had to say was quite different from the arresting officers who were the directly involved officers in that critical incident. And this was something that, was going to be very challenging in terms of job politics and dynamics, because as the investigation progressed, again, the details that I provided were quite different from the arresting officers. I didn't see the shooting myself occur, and so I couldn't say which one of those officers did what, and I didn't because I couldn't. But, the evidence that I gave was definitely different than theirs. And the internal investigators certainly took note of that in my interview. But again, in something like that, if you're thinking that cops always cover for each other, or there's always a blue line of silence, or that we're fucking liars, or that we're rats if we give our account of the events, people should know that not just that I didn't say things that weren't true or say things to throw somebody under the bus, that I gave my account of the events, my involvement, what I witnessed, what I could see. I didn't hypothesize or fall into the trap of saying, I think this cop did this or I think this cop did that. I just gave my version of the events. And I'm not defending myself because that matter has long been resolved and there's nothing to defend against anymore. But I'm just trying to show how important it is to only say what you can say, what you were involved with, what you witnessed, not suppose, and not say or do anything to throw the investigation off the rails, or to go out of your way to, be immoral or lie to save another officer's skin. Again, I didn't see what had occurred. But the day was soon to come where I would have to be testifying in court. And these officers had a lot of other friends on the job who were present that day in the court case against them. And I can tell you that is a very nerve-wracking experience to have to go and get called into court. The days leading up to it, are tough. You're not sleeping well. You're stressed. I was worried. But I also knew that I was going to go in it and do my job. And this was part of it. And I wasn't going to treat this any different than any other criminal investigation that I was involved in. Whether I was not, I was, whatever my involvement was. And, I wound up doing that. I wound up testifying in front of, I don't know, maybe a dozen other cops who were close friends to this guy. And as I had all along, I didn't change my story. I stuck to what I saw. I didn't fall into the trap of benefiting the prosecution or the defense's arguments by supposing anything or being theoretical. I just reported on what I saw and didn't make it personal. And I point that out because I think it's extremely important, because those guys needed to know what I had to say. They had a right to know what I had to say, and the truth simply was that I didn't do anything that I shouldn't have to make them look either guilty or innocent. I simply relayed my facts as I had observed and recorded them. And I can't stress that enough because I want any of the young bucks and does who may or may not be watching this know that when the time comes, uh, you get involved in an incident like that, do your job, act as you are trained, and don't don't fall into any traps by either side in the courtroom to change your story. Stick to the truth of your story as you had documented it from the beginning, as you had testified. And that was really tough. What made it particularly tough from a shift dynamic perspective was that one of the guys on my shift was close personal friends with one of those two guys, which really, really complicates things, or has the potential to complicate my, our working environment at the time. And I don't know if it was the day after or a couple days later, or our tour following the day, our tour at work following the day that I testified. Um, but the one cop's friend who's on my shift came up to me and said to me, I really appreciate, and he really appreciates how you told your story. And I think that was the key indicator to me that I had done the right thing, and they really appreciated it. Um, so I think we'll leave it there. And I'm starting to think that this era of Echo 305 has not just 3 parts, but maybe is going to wind up being a 4-part story, because so much significant stuff happened then at a significant time in my life and career. So we're going to leave you here, guys, because we're getting a little bit past that 20-minute mark, and I know most of us, our attention span ain't going to last much longer, even if the shit's interesting. So once again, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of each other, and remember that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and lots of years left to enjoy after you're done. Take care, guys.